It's Friday, June 21st, 2024. We will start off, as we always do, with our promotional segment, where I tell you that if you are in the mood to support our show, then it's very easy. You can just go to supportourshow.com, and you will find all the ways that you can support the show right there in one easy-to-view and click-on webpage. The only thing missing, and as far as I know is still working, I say this every time because this is Schrödinger's promo code at this point, is Ozone, as far as I know, will still get you 2 months free on Libsyn if you would like to start playing around with podcasting and try that platform out, which we've been on for a very long time. So up to the recording of this episode, they haven't done anything to make me really angry at them, so I can still recommend them. That could change before the next episode comes out. So you have to, as with everything, I heard a podcast the other day where the people were talking about, they were doing movie reviews, and they said, I don't remember who the actor was, but they said, oh, and this person, as far as we know, is a good person as far as the recording of this episode. That may change because you never know. You know, it just takes 1 minute of the story.
It's very true. You never know.
It is.
Yeah. Because like I was, I'm not usually interested in like celebrity history, but I didn't know that Lauren Bacall was married to Humphrey Bogart. I think that one just totally went over my head.
Sure.
And she was 21 and he was, I think, 41 when they got married.
Yeah,
but they met.
Okay.
They met on the set of a movie when she was 19 and they had an affair. Mm. And she was he was married at the time. He had a wife who was an alcoholic, and it was like a big mess. And then eventually he left his wife and they married. And then what was interesting is they got married, and then for all intents and purposes, they were totally happy. They were like totally cool. At which point he died of was it esophageal cancer 11 years later?
Smoker, I assume, like everybody else of that generation.
That era, yeah.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, well,
but yeah, it's just interesting. It's interesting dynamics, interesting like now then that was like a whoa, he's so fucking old, much older than you, and then now it's like, I mean,
who cares?
Yeah, I mean, didn't Seinfeld marry like a?
Oh yes, Seinfeld is one of those. Yep. Seinfeld is Little Eyes. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. He's not a pedophile.
Wait. Oh, okay, Little Eyes. That's what you mean. Jesus.
Yeah, Little Eyes is I don't know where that term came from, but I've always heard that as the kind of the term used for pedophiles. I guess because children have small eyes. That's the only thing I can think that makes any sense.
What's quite funny is that your eyes are actually never grow. It's one part of your body that you're born with them, and they stay the same size your whole life.
Yeah, well, I don't know where it came from. I just remember people starting to say that, and that was basically a way to call somebody a pedophile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I'm looking to see if it's an Urban Dictionary. Actually, it might have they might have a source for it. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they have etymology?
Yeah.
No, they don't. It doesn't have it. So I just remember, because it was the weirdest thing, because I remember I was working somewhere, and somebody was saying something like, I heard his Little Eyes. I'm like, what?
I used a term the other day that actually caused my wife to bend over in pain laughing for quite a long time. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think it was that funny. I think it was just that she'd never heard it before. and we were talking about a certain woman, and how she was one of these women who kind of had no neck, or her head was just kind of sunk into her shoulders, and she was like, like not fat but like heavy set.
Sure.
And I was like, she's like a turtle. Oh no, she's like a frog. She's like a frog. And I just said, ribbit. And for some reason that like completely destroyed my wife. We had this kind of serious conversation about the description of this woman, and then I just said ribbit
And then you
after
ribbited.
and that was enough that she was just over laughing. And I was like, and I was kind of thinking to myself, no, I was like, calling it. She kind of is like a frog. It's like, it's the whole. There's certain people that you look at them and they just have these physical features that, like, if you just twisted them a little bit further and changed the skin color, it would be an animal person.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah, I just thought that was funny. She was like dying of laughter, and my daughter came in and she was like, "Is she okay?" And I'm like, "She's fine." I ribbited at her, and she just fell apart. And nobody could believe it, but yeah, just the description apparently was enough. Yeah. So anyhow,
I got hung up for a couple days on the word quench. It's a strange word.
what's wrong with quench?
No, it's just odd. Well, it's odd because it's, what is it, onomatopoetically correct. It sounds right,
Okay.
but it's a weird word. I just don't know. I mean, quench is it's a strange. There aren't a lot of words that kind of sound like it when you say them. You know what I mean? I can't think of another one that's quite the same. It has slight hardness, but also softness in a way that, like, crunch has a hard end.
We're still talking about words, right?
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, quench has this kind of. It's like a sponge. When you say quench, I have this visual of a sponge.
You're almost talking about like words that can double as curse words.
Sort of, yeah.
It's like there's words that are hard enough that if you said them with the right intention, it would almost give. Because like when you say fuck, like there's an intention to that. But there's certain words that have the same feel that even though they're totally innocuous words, when you say them right way, they come off like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's derived from quenchen, which is the Middle English, which still sounds weird.
Oh, Middle English is all weird. Don't even.
Well, no, I know, but I mean, it's and see, like they said, it's similar to quelch, but quelch has that hard edge to it, whereas quench is kind of spongy.
And my wife was huge in Middle English in college. I don't think you knew this about her. She was huge into Middle English and was doing all the what was it? Oh God, is it the Canterbury Tales that are in Middle English? Yeah. So she was reading those in Middle English, and and I hate Middle English. It shouldn't be called. It shouldn't English. It shouldn't even be called English. Like it's middle something else. I just don't like it because like everyone keeps going like, oh, once you learn it and you start reading it, like it just starts to make sense. I'm like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I just can't. And it's amazing because there's all this stuff from Middle English that
read anything in it. Have I read it?
Oh yeah, you know what it almost reads like. Yeah. Do you know the Lewis Carroll poem about the Jabberwocky?
I've read it. I can't remember it, but I know.
Okay, reading Jabberwocky feels to me like reading Middle English.
Oh, okay.
Because he just made up kind of words and sounds and like Middle English. Like, hold on, let me see if I can find something for you. Yeah, you probably have experienced.
I probably have.
You know what? Maybe
you
haven't, because I don't think they're going to throw Middle English, because you did like intro to English and things like that. You never would have had to do like serious shit.
I don't think I ever did like creative writing or anything like that where I would have had to study it.
No. You wouldn't do this creative writing. This is historical.
Well, let's put it this way. Yeah. I don't think I ever took any deep English classes past what I had to do for high school or college. You know what I mean? So I don't doubt that I've encountered it. But do I remember any of it? No. Do I remember even what it would be like to read it? No, I don't remember anything like that.
I want to see if I can find you like just a passage so you can understand.
Well, I can find the Jabberwocky poem.
No. But Jabberwocky is not Middle English. It just makes me think of Middle English.
Let me look for a Middle English poem. I mean, there's got to be one, right?
Yeah, I'm looking.
Here we go. Medieval poems. Is that what it is? Medieval and Middle English?
All right, here you go. Yeah, so here's a phrase, right? So I'm going to read a phrase to you.
Oh, my God, I'm reading one. This is not English.
And I'll read you what it translates to. So
wait. Let me read before you read it. Let me attempt to read one that's 5 lines, and see if I'm just completely miserable.
I was gonna read one comment to you, and you tell me what you think it means.
Well, let's do that in a minute. I'm gonna read this and see because I don't know if this is even. Is it supposed to be read in a certain way, or is it just reading it? I'm just gonna read it. Here we go. Ready? fowls in the frith, the fishes in the flood, and I mon wax wad, much sore way I walk with for best of bon and blood. That's what I'm reading this as.
All right. So hold on. Let me read you this.
Is this shortened? Is that supposed to be blood instead of blood?
No.
God.
That's the
right.
word that it was, and it evolved into something else. So this phrase, right?
Yeah.
A whale wit ice Wallace bone.
Oh, Bon was in mine too.
A beauty white as whale's bone.
Well, okay. Oh, so then this last line is for beasts of bone and blood, but it's bon and blood.
Yes.
For
so
best
the thing is that well, here's the funny part, right? We're the weirdos to Middle English because Middle English evolves into us, our English. So to them, we would be the weird ones, and they came before us.
This looks like joke language.
But I know, but this is on its way to becoming modern day English. Now you understand. Now you understand why I don't like Middle English.
Oh, this is miserable. Listen to this
because
one.
remember,
sing cacao, no, sing cacao, sing cacao, sing cacao, no. Summer is coming in. That one actually
summer
sounds
is coming. Summer is coming in.
It's Y-COMEN though. Coming in.
I know.
Load sing cacao, groweth said and bloweth med. Oh, that rhymes at least. And springeth the woad no. Sing cacao.
The wood.
You bletteth after lamb, loath after calve co. Bullock sterteth, bouquet verteth.
Yeah, it's.
I can't even make it through this.
I know,
but it's missing a couple letters.
And the thing is to remember is that English is like a mix. At that time, was a mixture of like.
Oh, that's supposed to be cuckoo.
It's a mixture of like Dutch, German, Norwegian. I mean, all these different languages came together. The Normans came over with some elements of French. Like, they all came together to kind of create English.
Okay,
so
you know what?
English itself evolved. Yes.
This is actually. I'm serious now. This is something occurred to me.
Yes.
If people are looking for a good password, something that's memorable to them, look through Middle English titles like this because no normal modern person is going to do a search that will come up with these because they're so insane. So if you're looking for something that's complex because these have spaces and they're not spelled correctly to us, you could probably find one of these, memorize it, and know that it's spelled this way, and use it as a password. It would be a good master password for your password manager. I'm serious when I say that. At least would be good. Here's one. Ek day me cometh tidingas thra. I don't know what the fuck that even is, but it would be a good password anyway.
The Canterbury Tales were written in Middle English, and the what do you call it? The Arthurian stories were written in Middle English. Like, we actually owe a lot to Middle English and the stories that were recorded, but it sucks to read when it's because it is not English, and I think the problem is calling it Middle English makes you think that you can pick it up more easily than you do. Well,
that makes it sound like you know how you've seen spellings of old that are OLDE.
Yeah.
That sounds like what Middle English should be, where they went, you know what, there was an unnecessary letter here, so we dropped it off when we went to Modern English. That's middle to.
Sometimes we added we took a word and we added letters to it. And
but what I mean is you're talking middle to now would sound like a slight modification.
Yes, it's not
as opposed to say me white in the Brom. Do you know what that means? I don't.
I don't know.
Again, good word for a password manager, though.
I'll give you one even worse, though. I read, what is it? What is it? It's Don Quixote. I read Don Quixote in the original, like old Catalonian Spanish. I think it is. Basically, I read it in the original Spanish that Cervantes wrote it in. Right? I had a class. I had to do this, and that class actually broke me. It was I was taking Spanish in school because for the longest time it was kind of easy for me, and plus, honestly, I was interested in getting better literarily in Spanish, than I was, because I was, when you take English, I mean, you take English and you learn all the literature of English writing.
Literally trying to get better.
Yes, exactly. I wanted to learn the literature of the Spanish literature, but we read this. We read Cervantes in the original Spanish that it was written in, and it is one of the few classes, is probably the only class that I have ever been in. I think it was like the 4th class, and I sat up suddenly and was like, you know what? I was like, I don't need this class. I didn't need this credit. I didn't need it. I was doing it from education's purpose. I had other shit going on, and I realized I just didn't need to be there. And I actually sat up suddenly. And I liked the teacher. It's a funny thing. I actually really did like the teacher. I'd been with her for like 2 years at that point. She was great. But I just sat up, and she was like, what's wrong? And I was like, you know what? I just realized I don't need to be here. And I left. And I dropped the class, and I was so happy that I wasn't going to have to read the rest of Don Quixote in the original form of Spanish that was written in, which was like, honestly, it was almost like reading Middle English, but in Spanish, which you can imagine that's worse.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, but it's good. It's good to know that Middle English is there, because it's where the language we're all talking came from, which really gives you an idea. I mean, and it's honestly, it's not that long ago either. I think that's the other part that's in. What are the years spoken? Because I want to see how close. Yeah, so Middle English is the form of English used in England from roughly the time of the Norman Conquest, which is 1066, to about 1500. So think about that. That's really only about, 500 years ago? No, it's not at this point. No, it's
more than that
now. At this point, yeah.
True.
But either way, like, that's not that long ago. When you really think about that in, like, the big picture, like, in the realm of the scope of history on this planet, right? That is like a pinprick, you know? It's that whole thing. Yeah. So we were all English speakers were speaking Middle English, you know, not that long ago.
Right.
So it really makes you wonder, like, 500 years from now, what the fuck is the language going to look like? And will what we've been speaking be referred to as, like, you know, postmodern English or something like that? Or that's what the new English will become, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or it'll be called, you know, I don't know, digital English or some weird shit like that.
Well, it's interesting
to consider. It does give you some scope, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Actually, yeah. I had a funny question that popped into my mind that I wanted to bring to the table for discussion.
Okay.
Which was essentially, I'm listening to this whole lecture about how technology shapes us, and I've been surprised because I thought it was going to be all doom and gloom.
Okay.
Right, and it hasn't been, right, which is surprising.
Sure.
And that I do like that, and it's not even in like a, you know, when you have people who are into technology who are overly hopeful about it, and they say things, and you're like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Like the AI will save us all people.
AI is going to save us. It's going to make everything better. And I'm like, okay. And what's very funny is that, you know, you talk to people, and I've heard this comment a bunch of times from multiple women where they're like, I don't need AI to paint for me. I need AI to do my laundry and clean my house so that I can go do art. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's, and that kind of boils to my question of technology, which is, what makes technology bad? Right? Is it the design? Is it the use? Is it the desire? Is it the desire for its results? Like, you know, we have all these technologies, and they have all these pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
And some of them are things that we didn't especially count on. Like, for example, electric light. Electric light screws with human circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
Right? Now, we want to go on and on about how, like, oh, it's our phones. And, like, to some degree, it is our phones, because our phones function on blue LED, right?
Yeah, sure.
But then so do all the bulbs in the room. And you have people sitting in a room full of lights that are all on, you know, and they're like, well, it's my phone. I'm like, no, it's not just your phone. It's electric light. But it gets back to this idea that the light is not so much the problem. It's kind of more so the way we use it that makes it so that it causes sleep issues, right? Where you don't get tired as quickly as you want to because you have this bright light in your face that tricks your body into thinking, no, it's not time to go to sleep yet, right? And that's a discrepancy of our biology with our technology, right?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily consider that to be like bad technology. It's just that we haven't adapted, right? But then you have something like Facebook, where like Facebook now, or not even just social media now, its end goal is to get as much data as possible because that's what it sells, right?
Sure.
But if you think about it, when it was first created, right, which takes me back to Facebook, when he first created Facebook, there was none of this data collection, data mining, super yet, or was it? Was it already there? Was it built in from the start?
So I think the proper way to say it is the data was always there. The monetization of the data had not been realized yet. There was not the awareness nor the rush to make money off. They didn't know what the data was going to do. So in the beginning, and this follows the Cory Doctorow and shittification thing, is initially, before targeted advertising, because you have to remember, when Facebook came around, advertising on the internet and all the type of thing we're used to today, that was all, it was either not there or it was not really, the moneymaker was still television. The moneymaker was still
advertising was still, was still mastering television and imagery selling. Yeah.
Yes. So it was not... So was the data there? Yes. Was the collection of the data there? Yes, but not in a predatory way.
So you're saying it didn't start out bad. It became bad because someone realized they can make a profit.
Correct. And that's the problem. Initially, I do not think that Mark Zuckerberg was ever a beneficial or benevolent person. I do not think that in the beginning, I think that there was probably a selfish yet symbiotic nature to the way data was collected. So initially, when it was first, let's say in the early days of the Facebook, when they were asking you for your age, your gender, everything else, that was because they were actually trying to align you with other users that were similar to try to start a community, to build it, to have you get connections. It was, they all had that data, but they weren't yet using it for nefarious things because there weren't really data brokers and all the rest of it the way there are today. So were they collecting it? Yes. Were they telling you what they were building a database? No, which was nefarious in itself. But the way the data was being used, at least initially, was not because they knew they could sell you to every person on the planet. It's because there was no way to sell to at that point, or not many. It was because they knew that if they could connect you with others like you, that would grow the platform and make them more valuable and give them more of a product, and a presence.
So you don't think they started out bad?
No, it was the teeter-totter, if you want, or the seesaw was even at first, where you as the user were getting a beneficial set of connections before there were lots of social media. There were limited spots. So you were getting a better product than, say, MySpace or something like that. It was built better, at least initially. And so that seesaw was even. And over time, it has obviously gone further. And this is what they all do, is as money becomes more important and growth slows, as it has to because there's a finite amount of people on the planet, that balance goes off.
So it's the desire to make more money that makes the technology bad.
Almost inevitably, yeah. Unless you find out that the person behind it was actually a scumbag, in which case it was just them. But usually it is monetization. Usually. I
was reading recently about the suicide rate of teenage girls and how it has gone up something like 180% or something ridiculous. It's some ridiculous number where you're like, holy shit, ever since social media became very big.
Although there is a legitimate dispute on what that actually means. And depending on, that's not, but you can't really tie it one to the other because there's also more awareness of mental health issues.
Of course, but anxiety levels have gone up. Like all these.
It's difficult to say for sure that they've actually gone up, or is it that the classification of anxiety has changed and broadened, coordinated with better data collection, along with the fact that there is increased pressure from new outlets such as social media. So it's difficult to again, I'm not saying that you're wrong about there is definitely more it's like with autism, where there's there's an autism
more
explosion.
Autism, there's more autism now than there's ever been. Yeah.
Or is it that's diagnosed more effectively?
Yeah, but the problem, I think the problem is that we have a social technology. I mean, this is the whole, kids get this technology too young, and they don't really understand the ramifications of it, and then they get enthralled in the game of it because they design these technologies to make them as addictive as possible. Why? Because, as you've said, there's a profit margin behind it, so they want to make them. And I'm using social media as an example, but when I'm talking about why is technology made to be bad, this goes back to all technology. And this is, to some degree, you're saying the enshittification, where it's like, yeah, we talked about Coca-Cola, right? Where like they designed the soda to be more and more addictive, to have more caffeine, more sugar, and then you kind of sit there at some point and say, hey man, do you let your own kids drink this? Right? Chemistry is a form of technology, right? We don't realize that. We don't think about it that way because it's liquids, but chemistry is a form of technology. It's a form of science. We have made the drinks more addictive. We have made the commercials more, I don't know, like more precise. We've made the social media more addictive. So it's like, if it's all about profits, at some point you just start to wipe out. How much damage has to be done before people stop and go, okay, maybe we need to redesign this. So yeah, I wonder at what point they make the technology so that it's so focused on profit that it destroys the thing that it preys on. You know what I mean? And like to some degree, you have this with like teenage girls, where it's like you have this technology that is causing them to obsess, to freak out over comparison to other people, and to obsess, and it's creating depression, and it's creating, and does it ever get bad enough? Let's say theoretically it gets bad enough. Do they just keep doing it? Does anyone ever have a conscience, or do they just keep doing it and they keep making money till a government steps in and goes, you know what, this is bad? This is like the whole England trying to get phones out of schools, right? Where the British government said, you know what, maybe we don't need smartphones in schools. And you know what? I don't even think we should call them smartphones anymore, because I have this problem when I'm talking to my kids about it, where I'm like, it's not a phone. The phone is not the problem, which is what makes it. It's the supercomputer attached to it. Like we told our kids, like, you guys want phones? I was like, we'll get you flip phones. You have flip phones. You can play Tetris on there. You can like kind of text maybe a little bit, right? That's fine. We're okay with that. It's like the phone isn't the problem. It's the supercomputer attached to it that's the problem. It's the endless access to everything that's the problem. It's too much, right? So, you still there? Just making sure you're still there.
I'm here. No, I'm still
here.
Good.
Just making sure, because my computer has been vanishy lately.
Yeah, I'm just listening.
But do we ever get to a point, or is it always something where a company pursuing a profit will push until it breaks?
Well, the easiest answer is, so long as the stock market exists and is in control of these companies, it's going to be, who cares about the people? It's all about growth and profit.
It's the greed. The greed makes the technology bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's one of the things they miss in a lot of. I wonder if that's why post-apocalyptic fiction is very big right now, because a lot of post-apocalyptic fiction understands what a lot of the golden age visions of the future don't. So like Star Trek is a vision of is a more of a golden age vision of the future. Now, it's been tempered by the fact that they keep making it, and as they keep making it, it gets darker. I mean, Strange New Worlds is supposed to take place before the original Star Trek, but you have to admit that it has been changed by the fact that it is being written today versus being written when Gene Roddenberry wrote it, right?
Sure.
I mean, they didn't even bring the idea of like a Star Trek Secret Service CIA type thing until Deep Space Nine, right? Isn't that when what are they called? The Men in Black of Star Trek.
Oh, Section 31?
Section 31. Section 31 didn't even come into the picture till Deep Space Nine, right? Isn't that when they came up with it?
Yes, I believe Deep Space
'Cause
Nine. I think the idea of it had been alluded to, but I don't remember if it had been named.
Yeah, and the thing is, the
Actually,
vision of Star Trek is this idealist vision of the future, and when you have this idealist visions of the future, what's missing? Right? What's missing from Star Trek that you don't realize you're not seeing, but it isn't there? What's missing?
What's missing?
What's missing from Star Trek?
Well, I mean, it's a utopia, so all the bad stuff.
Right, but
except for Deep Space Nine, really.
Think about it. There's no real TV shows, right? No one's watching TV. No one's really going to the movies. There's no social media. There's no people aren't
leisure, but you're right. It's not screen based. It's music. It's chess.
There's no capitalism.
Suites. Well, okay, so actually
that?
That's not really true. Well, okay, yes, you're right. There's no capitalism. That part you're right about. But
like what I mean is like people aren't obsessing over things.
Well,
right?
the Ferengi are, but the humans aren't.
The humans are, yeah. And the thing is like greed is almost becoming more of a bizarre human function. I mean, you have more racism than you have greed in Star Trek. Right?
Sure.
In Starfleet, you know, when you have these episodes where you get, you know, Starfleet members who can be racist against aliens or this or that, but like you don't really get any kind of greed. I mean, sometimes you get greed of resources where someone says Starfleet should get this, they shouldn't get this, you know, that kind of thing. Sure. But there's no monetary greed. In fact, there's really no talk of money. Like, how does money work in the Starfleet plan? How does money work on Earth in the world of Starfleet?
It doesn't.
There's no money, right?
Well, no, there wouldn't be because you have replicators. Therefore, anything you need, you get.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, if you need food, you have a replicator. Now, the question is, do you have access to a replicator? Is there a booming business for replicators? Do you need a job to be able to afford a replicator?
Well, jobs don't exist in the way that we think they do, as far as I know.
Exactly. So, like, it's this Star Trek is this
it's communism. I mean, it really is.
It is. Yeah. I mean, and honestly, like, I don't want that to get to become too popular concept because then someone will try to cancel the show.
Well, okay, but it's not true communism.
It's not pure.
In the
it's
fact
not
that
pure
there's,
communism. No.
Well, I guess Starfleet would kind of be the parliament or the what do you call it, the party, right?
They would, right? Well, yeah,
because
there's no other parties on Earth. Is there?
Shapeshifters came around. They were like, "All right, martial law, everybody." I mean, they basically did.
Yeah,
it is communism. It's space communism.
Yeah. So, but that vision of the future doesn't account for human greed. Communism doesn't really work at all. Communism didn't work in Russia, didn't work in Cuba, because at the end of the day, you had people who were greedy for power, people who were greedy for money, people who were greedy for everything, right? You had men who took control who didn't ever want to walk away from it. You know, Stalin held Russia in an iron grip since he could for the rest of his life.
Communism. I think this is correct.
Yeah.
Communism can only work if empathy is universal.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Only if you're thinking about everybody can something like communism
work. Which is the way that Star Trek has always presented Earth in the future, is
everybody
that they had
cares.
shed all of their defects, which of course we find out is not true once pressure is applied. But
by and large,
in fact, I read that in the episode of Section 31. The whole the reason Section 31 came about is because in the episode with the Maquis in DS9, you're right, it was DS9 where they came about.
Yeah.
The leader said it's easy to be a saint in paradise, and that's where the Maquis came from.
True,
and so so communism can work if everybody is happy and empathetic.
Everybody's
the minute somebody becomes unhappy or wants more power, it falls apart.
And so it's that. That's why I think to some degree the post-apocalyptic fiction is becoming more interesting, because it'll take something like Fallout, right? And I only talking about that because I was thinking about it recently. Fallout is this vision of the greedy future gone wrong, right? Sure. Vault Tech saved some people, ran experiments on the rest, because why the fuck not? You know, it was all robots and leisure, and everybody wanted more, and then there was war, and then they just blew each other to fucking bits.
And that's in the show, which I, as far as I understand it and have read, was never explicitly stated in the games that it is capitalism that leads them to drop the bombs. That
I didn't realize that it was specifically capitalism. I just
well,
meant,
it was not
human,
in any of the games.
Greed.
From what I read, all the games they never said what it was, but in the show they decided to make it explicit that hey, this is because they realized that the only way to scare people into buying more vaults was to actually drop the bomb because they were starting to think maybe that would never happen, and so the only way that Vault Tech could keep going.
And honestly, that's not that outlandish. You know how awful it is to realize that that's not that outlandish.
Did you just see the thing about the U.S. government doing anti-vax propaganda in China?
No, I just saw the headline, but I didn't see what it was about.
It was because it was to stir up. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to remember.
Let's not go too far down the rabbit hole.
Well, no, I don't. But no, I mean, there's facts around it, so I'm trying to see exactly. I just can't remember if it was because they wanted to discredit China or what. Here it is. Let's see. This is okay. It was to undermine China. Yeah, basically they wanted people to be scared of I believe the Chinese vaccine specifically. Yeah, here it is. Typical tweet. Quote, COVID came from China and the vaccine also came from China. Don't trust China, end quote. So I believe what they were doing was they were trying to sow doubt on the... remember China had their own vaccine.
So they could sell their own vaccine? Is that what it was?
Probably. Well, I don't know if it was... No, not to sell. It was more to just make people be doubting China, I think.
Let me be very clear.
The government wasn't selling it.
I don't think that capitalism is 100% wrong. And I don't think communism is 100% wrong.
Well, I don't think any of them are 100% right or wrong.
I think that when you let any system get taken to its extreme...
when any system has total and unfettered power, then you have problems, just like anything else.
Exactly, yeah. And it's kind of like, I hadn't read 1984 in a long time, and I listened to that lecture, the audio broadcast they did at the anniversary not that long ago. And that has been kind of popping around my head, just kind of like rolling around in there, bumping into things. And it just brought this question of, what makes the technology bad? And it's like, it's the money, it's the greed, it's the human greed. It's the whole, I don't care if we burn the world to the ground, I won't be here when it happens, therefore I want to make all the money. It's the, I don't care if this technology is causing teenage girls to maybe possibly want to kill themselves because I'm selling the data and it's great. I don't care. It's the whole like online gambling thing. It's like, I don't care if you have a gambling problem. I'm going to create the technology, and it's not my problem if you can't help yourself to use it.
I got to tell you, man, it's funny you say the gambling thing. The ads for gambling are just so despicable because now they're ever since it got legalized in 2017, 18, whenever it was like, okay, you can do it.
Didn't Jamie Foxx, wasn't he doing like a whole series of, hey, I can run an ad on this? He was their celebrity shill for a while.
Well, they're all doing it now. But yeah, I think he was one of the big ones early on. But I mean, it's just terrible because they're all like, oh, if you have a gambling problem, well, motherfucker, you just ran a minute ad that will make anybody with an addictive personality. I mean, they've made it so, and now this. Because my wife and I watch baseball, and now with baseball, everything is predicated.
If you're
with
watching sports, there's tons of ads for that.
It's so bad. They're like, oh, the money line, whatever on this is plus. It's like, I don't fucking care. And this is scummy shit.
You can do it. You can do it so easy. Just log in, one tap, man. You can do it. Yeah.
People are like, "Oh, you're an adult. You should." No, God, that's not how addictive personality works, assholes. Have some understanding about what you're talking about.
But you're going back to the larger question: is it the role of society to protect its individuals from bad technology, or from access to bad technology?
Well, and the answer, that's not the question because it's not possible because capitalism overrides whether society wants it or not. Ultimately, in the end, capitalist drive will squash any type of pushback to it unless enough people actually stop paying for it, which is not going to happen because we're being sold this stuff.
Is it Darwinian then? Is it the whole whoever falls for the... Are we looking at a future, right?
No, what it is it's an education problem. It's an education problem.
Hold on. I agree with that 100%, but I'm saying anybody who falls for this shit deserves to be destroyed by this shit, and the people that are left beyond that will be the ones that you can't reach. Do you know what I mean? Like there is a minority population of people out there that advertising just does not have effect on? Are these the people that are going to inherit the future? The people who cannot be swayed, they can't be Facebooked, they can't be,
I don't think so. Okay, so there's a complex answer to that. So what you're asking is, are the people who are resistant to being shown what these things are doing, will they be the ones who inherit everything? Is that what you're asking me? If the people who
to some degree, the people who don't, the people
things?
the people who can't be manipulated by the advertising, by the technology.
Oh, who can't be? So who are resistant to the manipulation?
Yes,
okay.
I'm saying.
I think so. I think this is like a lot of things. I think this is going to age out. The problem is, by the time it does, what damage will have been wrought, right? So this is kind of the global warming or climate change or whatever term you want to use. Problem is, okay, sure, people who are in denial, when their grandchildren wake up and they're on fire, they're going to realize there's a problem. But at that point, you can't change it because it's too far gone and too many systemic cracks and fissures have formed. So that's the issue.
When Florida's underwater,
Right. Yeah, of course, then you'll realize that, I guess the sea levels are going up. But at that point, Florida's underwater.
Well, listen, Florida's underwater right now. They just they just got that super rain thing that came through.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is, there is a member of my family who I will not specify, who has told me that they will probably be voting for Trump again. And yet this person has recognized that there is a problem with the climate because of the way the weather has changed. It has at least become obvious to this person that, there's a problem here. Also, I have a feeling it coincides with their energy bills going up because they have to run air more often because the summers are lasting longer, starting earlier. And in fact, they noted that they didn't have to have anybody come and do snowplow this year, or just once, because there hasn't been snow the way there used to be. And this is what, all these things. And I'm sitting here going, do you know how long people have been saying we have to watch out for this? So you're realizing it when it starts to impact you, but that's where it's already past the point of stopping it. So
because the problem is that people don't believe it till they see it for themselves.
Your question is, yes, I think those people will be in charge, but they'll be in charge of a cinder. So what's the point? Right?
Yeah.
And
hey, you know what? I don't believe that it's going to be impossible. I do believe that it's going to be different. I do believe that as we evolve and I do think that right now the problem is our technology is right now all our human faculty is focused on making money, right?
Well, it's not that it's going to be impossible.
No, but hold on. But if something happened bad, right?
Yeah.
If things actually got bad and for a minute human faculty actually focused entirely on solving a problem.
Yeah. I
do think that in time it would get bad before it got better. But I do think that things could I don't want to say reversed, but things could be perhaps averted for a time being. If we focused en masse towards a goal.
I legitimately wonder if, I mean, this is conspiracy theory thinking, but it's logical, unlike most of it. No, I'm serious. This is horrific tinfoil hat stuff.
Okay.
But I do genuinely believe that this is a likely outcome. So there has been this fear by the people who think that QAnon is somehow a prophet and other things like this, that this Agenda 23 thing has been going on. Do you know what this is?
Is this a thing where Trump wants to put, the Republicans want to put all their people into place, so essentially that there's no sanctuary cities, there's no, basically they want to have everything in conservative charge, essentially, right?
No, this is the thing. Maybe I'm using the wrong term. It's no, I'm sorry, Agenda 21. Have you ever heard of this?
Oh no, sorry, I don't know Agenda 21.
Okay,
is that like order number 13?
Well, whatever it is, the gist of it is that people have said that this is actually a secret global super world government conspiracy to eliminate something like a third of the world population because there's too many people. And the people in charge at the head of everything at the round table in the center of the earth.
Listen, I'm going to say this to you right now. If there was actually a group of people in charge and responsible enough to say, hey, you know what? There's too many people on this planet. We need to wipe out some of them. I would be astounded and impressed because as far as I'm concerned, nobody's fucking in charge. No countries get along for everything. Everybody seems to be bombing or haggling for what they want. So I find conspiracy theory to be like some of the most positive thinking lately because you have to believe in like fairy tale godmother level team think for some of these things that it's like, hey, there's a big group of people and they're all working together.
Oh, here it is. This is it. Let me read it. It is Agenda 21. Now, Agenda 21 is a real thing that exists through the UN, but these people believe that
it's something else. Okay.
So this is a plot. And by the way, it's a non-binding plan for the UN, by the way. So, meaning that there's no penalty if you don't go along with it.
And the idea that the UN can really do anything, they have been shown to be toothless and testicleless.
But no. That's where Agenda 21 comes in because it's a plot that is disguised as an environmental movement to end individual freedom and establish a one-world government to cut the world population by 85%. I have my numbers wrong. And
85%.
or, I love and or, because that just means it's optional, to introduce surveillance by the 5G network.
Guess
also,
what, guys?
they thought that COVID was a great reset type of thing.
If global warming actually happens the way they think it's going to happen, 85% is probably going to be what you're looking at. Not to mention that before everybody drowns or burns, the cities will be overfilled. And there'll be rolling blackouts worldwide.
But here's where I'm going to dip into what's going to sound like Crazy Town.
No, go ahead, Crazy Town.
If it gets to the point where there are simply things that are not going to be reversible, do I think that type of thing would be allowed to happen? I do. Because at some point, people with brains, the people who will realize what's going on, are going to look around and be like, it's not going to be possible to save everybody, so we're just going to have to let them die.
Well,
because just think about it logically. If all this land goes underwater, where's everybody going to go?
Going to support you now, right? There are
Which I hate saying this, by the way.
I'm going to support you because I think you're right. There are parts of Africa right now that are so hot they're near unlivable. There are parts of Africa where there is war, there is famine, and the civilized countries of the world that have the money and the military power to do something about it don't give a shit. Not our country, not our problem. Let them die. Let them die. And that's kind of what's going to happen. Is that learning about the different countries fighting over global warming and how they fight over it, which essentially you have a lot of these. We're going to call them third world countries. I know they don't use that term anymore, but that's essentially what the term. You have these third world countries sitting there going, "Hey, why should we have to pay so much for this pollution when the first world countries are the ones that are done the bulk of the polluting?" And the first world countries are going, "Hey, we shouldn't have to pay more than you. It's all one world, right?" And it's this kind of like they're fighting back and forth over. Well, I don't think I should have to pay this much of it. Well, we shouldn't have to pay this much. And meanwhile, the house burns around you. It's saying, hey, we shouldn't have to put out this much of the house. You guys have water and you set fire to more of the house than we did, so you should have to put out more of the house. Well, we don't want to use all our water to put out the house. Well, you should have to put out just as much of the house, and the whole thing burns to the ground. Right? So the whole let them die mentality. I mean, also, anybody who comes to you with a theory like that is the type of person that when and if put in power might just use a plan like that. There's a whole host of assholes who have an MO. And the MO is they accuse people of things that they're doing. Trump is one of them. Right? I grew up with these people. It's huge, especially in misogynist culture, where they go, "Oh, I bet you she's doing this." And you're like, "No, she's not doing that, asshole. You are, and you're accusing her of it because it's in your head. And the way you realize it is if you're capable of it, she's probably capable of it. Except she's probably not as big as an asshole as you are." Right? And it's that all over. It's the whole, a world power is doing this. They're going to kill everybody. Whereas if you were in charge and you were a world power, you'd probably do something awful yourself. Be like, I'm going to, it's like, yeah, wipe out all the brown people, or wipe out all these people, or wipe out all those people. It's human greed. It's a lack of empathy. It's a lack of understanding. It's you know what? I would love a one world government. We would be better off with a one world government, because all we have now is squabbling, tribalism, and barbarians. Did I lose you? Is it just me?
Nope, I'm listening to
just
you,
making sure. No, just making sure, because though Joe will probably edit this earlier, I was going on for about 5 minutes, and I didn't realize that Joe and I had gotten cut off. So I'm just checking in now and then to make sure that I haven't just launched off into my own, to my own cosmos.
No, you're still there.
Yeah. So it is a weird vision of things, the way that we make technology bad. But this goes back to Watchmen. This is the whole idea, is that you have to give humanity something to fight against. Right. I mean, that was Hitler's idea, right? Hitler was like, hey, we need to have an enemy.
Right.
Let's come up with an enemy. Okay, now let's fucking wipe them out. And then they just wanted to, and you have to sit there and wonder sometimes, like, what happens to Germany if Germany did in fact wipe out the Jewish population? Would it then become, we have to wipe out every Jew in the world? Would it then become, okay, we've wiped them all out, we have to wipe out all the homosexuals, all the blacks? Would it then become, we need to wipe out everyone in Africa so that we can make it, New Germany? Like, you have to wonder of the personality of a government like that, if there always had to be an enemy, if there was never going to be an end of the war.
Well, that's the 1984 idea, right?
Oh yeah, the war never ends. Yes, the war never ends, and to some degree we have that now in the idea of money. You never have enough money, right? You need to keep redesigning those ads and redesigning your products, because you never have enough money. Never have enough money. Bezos will never have enough money. Never, ever, ever. Never have enough money. Neither will Musk, right? And they'll continue putting out the most mass market products they can for the cheapest possible price, because they want the maximum profit. They never have enough money. Bezos will never run out of money.
Yeah.
He has his own space program. So does Musk.
Right.
Right? But they'll never have enough. And it does get into this kind of philosophical quandary where you have people out there who have next to nothing. And if you ask them, they sit there and they say, no, I'm good. I have enough. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm happy. And you're like, wow, how does that happen? So
well, I mean, there's lots of ways that can happen.
Oh, I know. It's
the chief among them being, if you, when you were very young, had next to nothing and have enough, then it is enough, even if it isn't a lot.
I know, but why is it never enough for so many people?
Well, because most of those people did not come from nothing. They came from having.
Yeah.
And so they were taught, you have to keep having. This is one of the most pervasive myths in a lot of these billionaire stories, that when you dig, you find out it's all BS, is this idea that, oh, I built myself up from nothing. No, they didn't. Almost none of them did. And the ones that did tend to be very different from the ones who didn't, which is most of them. Like Musk will talk about how I fucking hate Elon Musk. His whole backstory is utter horseshit.
Owned a diamond
yes,
mine.
he talks about them like he did. No, he did not, and most of them did not. It's like
Bezos got a giant loan from his parents to.
That's what I'm saying.
Amazon.
That's the thing. So those people never had very little, so they don't appreciate anything because they never had nothing. They've always had.
They never had nothing.
Yeah, it's
the
same thing.
I found out recently. My daughter had to get braces recently, and she was very bummed about it. And she was asking me about having braces as a kid. And when I got braces, my mother brought me to this. My mother. Oh, even though we grew up in a town that was quite nice and quite, I mean, for lack of a better phrase, white, my mother and both my parents worked in an entirely different county in the Spanish community. And the only reason we didn't grow up in that community was because my mother knew that she couldn't afford private schools and wanted us to put us in the best schools she could. So she moved to a white town that she was almost never in, which was a very strange way for me to grow up. So whenever we had to go to doctor's appointments, we didn't go to doctors in the white town. She took us back to the Spanish community where she knew people. So like my braces were done by this guy who I'm pretty sure I think he was Greek. And he was like an old world, like an old world torturer who had decided to take on a new occupation. That guy did awful things to my teeth. But apparently I have quite nice teeth now. My wife says, and she's like, "Oh, your teeth are so straight." I'm like, "Well, it was painful."
I earned it.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, actually, there's stuff that guy did to my teeth that when I tell the current orthodontist, she's like, "I've never heard of that." I'm like, "Well, that makes me feel good." So anyway, my daughter was talking to me about this, and I was saying how I had braces, my sister had braces, but I couldn't remember if my brother had braces, right? And the thing is, there was a period of my family where we were quite poor. We were like just kind of hanging on for a while there, and then by the time my parents kind of came into money, my brother and I were both older. My sister doesn't remember a time where we didn't have money, but my brother and I do when we're older. And I was asking my mother about my brother getting braces because I was like, "Well, we got braces." And my mother actually said to me, she's like, "He didn't get braces because we were broke." She's like, around the time that they started talking to us about braces, she's like, "We couldn't afford braces." She's like, and then by the time we could afford braces, he was older and we asked him and he was like, "Fuck that." And you know what? Listen, if I had an option and I was like in my late teens, you know what? I might have been like, "Fuck that too." But I was young enough that I was still in that mindset where my parents were like, "You're getting braces," and I was like, "I guess I'm getting braces." Right. And it's not a fad like it is now where you see these 25-year-olds getting braces because they realize their teeth are messed up. Right. And they've finally gotten into money that they can actually pay for it. But he didn't get braces because we were broke, because my parents were broke, because we didn't have anything. So by the time they had money, he was old enough that he was like, "I don't care." So it's like my brother and I have a very different point of view of things than my sister because she never didn't have money. She never had nothing. She doesn't remember us being poor. And in her vision of our family, there was always money and there was travel and there was this and there was that. Whereas like my brother and I were always like my brother and I think are also, because we grew up and remember nothing, we're always like, we're also both more worried about there being nothing again than my sister. So like, we both Batman things. Like, I don't like to draw a lot of connections with my brother because we don't get along, but we both Batman things where it's like, I need to have a backup, and then I need to have a backup with backup, because if there's nothing, then we should have a backup. Right. Whereas my sister's the type to be like, "It's fine. Everything's cool. We'll just buy what we need." And you're like, "No, we're good. Let's be ready. Was it when did Noah build the ark? Before the flood."
Right.
Yeah. So it's a weird thing. And when you understand that about yourself and the way you grew up, and then you start to kind of try to empathize with some of these individuals, you start to be like, yeah, like, I don't think you come from the same place as me, or I think that you might be a sociopath. That's the other part too, is that I think when you're raised by parents who don't give a shit, it's very easy to get broken and then to grow up also not giving a shit. Because there is a cycle of that. You're talking about how like we need better education. We need better education, but we also need better parenting. Good parenting
Sure.
and good education go hand in hand, because there is a value, an individual value of humanity that school doesn't teach you necessarily. You kind of get that from your parents. And when you don't get that from your parents, the brain does weird things to kind of make up for that. And if you are a normal person who had like healthy parents and stuff like that, you won't necessarily understand it. Like my wife doesn't necessarily understand how I grew up because it was very different from her. And she had a much healthier traditional home life. Whereas like, I come from kind of a much weirder place. So I'll say things to her and she'll be like, holy shit. And I'll be like, yep, that's how we rolled. And the things that your mind does to make up for that. And then if you don't have good education, where you're not actually learning about the world and learning about the people, and especially if there's an agenda. I mean, that's the other part too, is like you talk about, do we need a better education? We need a better education, but we also need a better education that doesn't have a negative agenda to it. Because it's very easy to teach racism in schools. It's very easy to make kids into Nazis because they don't know any better. So you need better and an education with no agenda, right? So it's there's all these components, and you need parents who, despite their own damage, are willing to provide more care for their kids than what they got. It's very hard to be treated like shit as a child and then to grow up and understand that that's not how it's supposed to happen.
Well, yeah, right.
It's the whole, you need to break the cycle.
And that, by the way, is what I mean by, these people who, if you never had to worry about anything, then your mindset is, I should always have everything.
Well, also,
so it's understandable why that's how it is.
Is that the only thing that earns respect from your parents? If the only thing you understand growing up is that I have to have all the money.
Right. Well, that's it, your because I have been told by many people, and this is not a secret at all. You can find lots of people who will say, this has been my experience, that these people with the most money are also among the most cheap and, ungenerous and they may do their philanthropy stuff, but don't forget that's all write-off. That's the one thing that people don't really tend to pay attention to, is when you hear, oh, this person gave 6% of their wealth to whatever. Yeah. Did they write it off? Because then they didn't give anything. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, they did, but they are, because they know they're getting it back. They're going to make that up.
Yeah. But then
most of these people do not actually give anything.
But then they're unwilling to pay any taxes into the education system.
Well, because they don't pay any taxes because they write it all off. That's what I'm saying is, and I'm not saying it's every single, I am sure there are actually a few benevolent billionaires out there. I'm sure. and the reason I know that is because that I don't know who they are is because those people are not seeking out the spotlight. That's fine.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying nothing is universal.
Yeah.
But the people who you hear about, like Zuckerberg building that whatever super yacht that he's got so he can cruise around and just, do nothing. That's this.
I don't think Zuckerberg does nothing.
Oh, now
I think Zuckerberg's always up to something.
Surfing or whatever, but no, he really doesn't have to do anything because there's no risk of him losing control of his company. He has it structured in a way where he can't lose it. Short of him, I don't know, abducting a 4-year-old, tearing its head off and raping it on camera, then maybe.
Well, seriously. He'd still have the money.
But then he'd lose control of the company. Outside of that, he's not in any danger.
Yeah, they would probably say that he's not good for the company, so he would just quietly get a paycheck.
Yeah, he'd still have all his money, so he would. That's the only way he's going to lose. That's what I'm saying. Is the only way he's losing control of the company is to do something so spectacularly horrible.
And I'll be honest with you. I'm going to go back to the Hummer Hitman. I'm really surprised.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. I'm going to go back to the Hummer Hitman. I'm really amazed that there haven't been more like assassinations or assassination attempts on like billionaires, because there's so much anger towards them. I'm kind of surprised that someone.
No. See, it doesn't surprise me. I'll tell you why.
Because everyone thinks I want to be that person.
That's it. They think, I'm gonna. Yeah. They target the people that they feel are keeping them from being that guy, and they tend to be people with, I don't know, darker skin than them or other things that are different than them. Those are the ones that tend to keep me.
Those people taking their jobs. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. If not for all those gay people out there, I would be a billionaire because reasons. I don't know. Seriously. No, this is the logical vortex of nonsense these people live in. So because every time when there's some of these shootings and there's never any type of reason where you go, oh, okay. Because I'm not going to say anything justifies a killing spree, but
listen, my daughter asked me today, we were driving someplace, and she said to me, because like they're very curious about religion because it makes no sense to them, right? So my daughter said to me, she's like, I don't understand though. She's like, why do Christians hate gays? She's like, God created them, right? Like in their world, he created everything. So why could they hate anything? Because he created everything. And I was like, you're beginning to see the crux of the problem.
Well, plus I believe the argument would be, no, he didn't. They chose to defy his will.
Well, exactly. But if he created everything, then he also created the ability for them to defy his will.
Well, that's free will, man. That's there because he wants to let you succeed or fail on your own merits.
Yes, and then I told them that, there was a time that if you ate meat on Fridays, you went to hell forever and burned. But he loves you.
Well, there was an appendix that was published, so, come on. That's God.
Yeah, but you know what? Hey, listen. I remember reading about this. The people who went to hell for eating meat on Friday, they didn't get out. I'm sure they're still. I'm sure. Could you imagine? Could you imagine how shitty that must be?
The guy who went to hell the day before got appended. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like the last guy to get arrested for weed or something like that.
Because by the way, that's the first thing Lucifer did when they got there was like, "Hey man, look at the news headline from today."
Hey, look, it's not a sin anymore, but it was yesterday.
In blood, it's just on there. Yeah. You got here this date. It was made okay this date, and that's just on your body in repetition that you have to stare at it every day. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, listen, I don't know how there are comedies structured around all this stuff. I mean, there was a show called Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell, which I quite liked, that was on Adult Swim.
Yeah.
And if it was still running, this is the kind of material I would want them to be doing. It's funny on its own. Go watch it. It's on the web. You can watch it. It's great. It's very lo-fi and it's very, very funny. But they never got into some of the heavier stuff where I'm like, that would have been the show to do it. But
we're like an hour into this.
We sure are.
Let's I'm gonna break. Because I know it gets dark and it gets overwhelming.
Well, fortunately, I will set you up with this bit of a thing. My movie review is extremely optimistic, so
hold on.
We will end well, no matter what.
I have a segue for you.
No, that's fine. I'm just saying no matter what, we will not end darkly.
I watched King Kong.
That's great. I was going to ask you, but I'm like, no, I'll make it a surprise so I can react naturally and organically. That's great.
No, we watched it, and
it's fucking great. I love that movie.
My kids loved it.
Of course they did.
You
see what thing where he suplexed the back suplex?
Oh my god, yeah.
It was so good.
My daughter, but here's a weird one. My daughter says she likes the first one better. So today.
No, I understand that.
Yeah,
no, I understand that.
I think she likes 11 more. She likes that 11 is one of the.
Oh, I would have said because I think the fights are better in the first.
No, she likes 11.
Well, okay. I mean, that makes sense because there isn't a young female figure to identify with. No, I get that because the little girl is very young. So
yeah, and she's kind of a vague character.
She is. So you see what I mean about how could these idiots not have put together on the first look that these were her
look
people?
Just like her.
I mean, it's ridiculous. These must be the dumbest humans on the planet.
But she did enjoy it. She thought it was really great. And I will admit that character is Tracker.
He's amazing.
I mean, that character was designed to just be
likable every bit. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, my wife said to me afterwards, when the movie was over, she goes, "That guy had his own soundtrack, independent of the
remember
movie."
I told you every time he showed up, it was 70s, like 70s, and
it's almost like 70s synth or something like that.
It's great.
He has his own soundtrack to the movie.
He does.
Every time he shows up, you're like, oh, we're having a Tracker moment.
I know. Yeah. That's why I said I'd watch a whole movie with this guy.
In fact, the fact that they're not going to make more movies with that character is sad because he is such a feel-good character.
I don't believe that's set in stone.
The director's leaving.
The director's leaving, but if you have a movie where a lot of people respond to one character and everybody says this character's great.
But part of the vibe is the vibe that the director gives the character.
A good writer can reenact that.
Tracker's fantastic.
I would not count out that character couldn't be brought back in something. I would prefer a series. I would prefer a series where he's just jumping around and helping out Titans. Yep,
he's a
just kaiju of the month, man. He's like, what do you call it? The Incredible Hulk. He's going from town to town. Oh, we have a sick monster. And it's not attacking anybody, but it's it's lashing out. Go and give it a shot and extract its ingrown toenail. And it's like Dr. Monster MD, and he just bounces around.
Yeah, Doctor. Oh, that would be perfect. I would watch Dr. Monster MD.
So would I. I said that.
That'd be fantastic,
I'd watch
especially with that soundtrack.
Yes, it's tailor made. It really is.
He is. I mean, if there was ever a character that was tailor-made to just be a feel-good character.
But you see, when I talk about that part where Godzilla sees Kong, he's like, no. He's like, fuck you. And he just...
Oh, yeah, he put the hands up. He was like, no. Yeah. And Godzilla's just
Godzilla
like,
says, no. You don't stop me that way. And he's just fucking... And the other thing about the pyramids, too. You see how he pops out? And you're like, okay, listen, they're going to keep the pyramids intact. And he just...
When they go zero-G kaiju fighting, that might be the pinnacle of the movie for me.
It might be.
When suddenly there's no gravity and everyone's just like... Fucking kaiju are floating, fighting over boulders and kicking the shit out of each other.
It's great.
Like, so it's as far as a monster fest. Yes, you are correct.
It's perfect.
It is damn near
big,
perfect.
Dumb American monster fun, and that's fine. And fine.
We saw we saw the ad for Godzilla. Was it -1? No,
-1. Yeah, -1.
Yeah. So we saw the ad come up on Amazon, and my daughter was like, "Ooh, can we watch that Godzilla movie?" And I'm like, "Okay, you have to understand." I was like, when the Japanese Godzilla movies are different.
Yeah,
it's like
it's
they're
not
the same.
Time.
The American ones are popcorn smashers. I was like, these are more, and I said, I was like, it's because, listen, when you've been at the business end of an atomic bomb, it changes culturally, it changes the way you envision these things.
Well, and that's I don't know. I don't think I mentioned this. No, I didn't. I didn't think about this until after we discussed it on the show. But that's because if you remember in the movie, they talk about that his power has changed because he's fused it with the other thing. Yeah. So that's why he's pink now. So it's not just atomic anymore. Yeah. And I wonder if they're trying to move the American one away.
He's absorbing solar energy that's trapped.
Yeah. I think they're trying to move him away from the pure nuclear stuff because they realize that for certain audiences, that's not fun in games. That's, my grandparent was incinerated, so maybe we shouldn't have, silly zero-G nuclear power.
Solar seems to be so much more powerful at this rate.
Well, yeah, I mean it is ridiculous. And also,
But you know what? I thought there are no more monsters after King of Monsters. There's fucking kaiju everywhere.
No, and there always were. That's the thing is you just make them up. I mean, a lot of even in the classic movies, a lot of them were just Godzilla suits that they glued new stuff onto. Yeah,
Godzilla's just killing his way through shit.
He's the best. That's what I love about him is at this point they've basically acknowledged that he is the apex of the planet.
Oh, he is. Yeah, and when he comes through the portal with King Kong, I mean, that is the other great moment of that. There's 3 moments in that movie that I really enjoy. Like, there's lots of good moments in that movie, but the 3 that I thought were most funny was when they first come out of the gate and Godzilla and King Kong come running, and you're like, oh, okay, here it goes.
Yep.
When and then when they do the zero-G kaiju fight, which you didn't tell me about that, so I wasn't ready for it.
No. I didn't specifically point that out.
So when they went zero-G kaiju, I was like, "Oh, okay, this is a whole new level." And then when Tracker shows up with the herd of electrified bats, and he's got the music going, and it's like he's just flying in and flying around. I'm like, "Oh my god, this movie!"
I told you, it's a Warner Brothers cartoon. It just has become Bugs Bunny. It's just nonsense.
Yeah, except Tracker is Bugs Bunny.
Well, I know, but that's what I mean. Is it really is?
Yeah, actually,
just cartoon.
Tracker is Bugs Bunny, and the podcaster is Daffy Duck.
Yeah, and I found him far less annoying in this because of his relationship with Tracker.
Because of Tracker. Yeah,
right. That's what I'm saying. Is he nullified the annoyance I had, and that's what I mean about the reason the humans are better in this movie. I understand what your daughter's saying, but in the last movie they were more annoying. But the monsters were better in terms of, in King of the Monsters, there was more of them. I wish there was more of the kind of headline ones. Yeah. And then in Godzilla vs. Kong, the first one,
but you know what?
Humans were still too annoying.
It's very funny because Joe was going on about Space Godzilla last podcast. Yeah. And not a couple days after that, Sideshow released the images of their new Space Godzilla statue.
Which is great, but it's too big.
It's impressive. How big is it?
It's huge. I have nowhere to put that.
Is that 14? I thought it was only 14 inches.
They have a picture of the person for comparison. Hold on. I thought it was 18 inches. Is it 14? Hold on. Let's see.
Does 4 inches really make that much of a difference?
If you look at the base, yes.
Yeah.
Look at the base, not the height.
You know what?
The base.
Listen. I have the.
Yeah. Look at the image of the person holding that thing.
I have the human scale Godzilla shoulder. What do you call it when his shoulders up?
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, I have the Godzilla that's basically scaled down to human size statue.
Yeah.
That's like from the chest up. I have that in my office. My wife got that for me ever since I had that dream about her. And that thing is massive, and it's like it is a centerpiece of my office. And honestly, because it's in the middle of my office, it has been. I mean, Godzilla and I have become very familiar.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's just a very funny thing to me. Because when I first got it, I was like, man, this thing is pretty vicious looking. And then after a while, you're like, hey, Godzilla, I'm back in my office. How you doing?
I also think it's made of plastic.
Oh, is it? It's not resin?
They don't point out what it is, and normally if it says, it'll say polystone.
Yeah.
And just looking at it, it looks rubbery to me. It doesn't look like a painted polystone. So I have to admit, honestly, I have the little cutesy version of him, and I think it's better than this, even though it's very small. I think it's. I don't get me wrong. This is an impressive model.
It is hilarious. It's always hilarious to me when we talk about these things, and then a day later it pops up.
Yeah, there's a little, I guess what they call a chibi version of him that I got from Sideshow, which they don't have in their site anymore, which is really weird. But it's fantastic because it's like it's the ridiculous little proportions of it.
Yeah.
Jeez, where is that little thing? Huh, that's weird. I can't even find a picture of it. Sideshow did have it, and it's not even listed on their site anymore, I guess because they don't sell it anymore, but that's really weird. How come I can't find him? Maybe, you know what it's called? I think they call it Super Deformed. Super Deformed, which would seem like a maybe not great term for things, but I think that's what they call it. Well, I'm just saying. Okay, wait, that's really strange. I can't find any images of it anywhere. I mean, I have it. Oh, there he is. There he is. I found him. Godzilla. Let's see. Here he is. Oh, well, okay. Okay, this is the other one. This is Godzilla himself, which I also have. Where is Space Godzilla? This is really bizarre. How can I not find any images of this guy? I bought him.
Off the site.
Wow.
They do that.
God,
they pull shit off.
Boy, they ghosted him. Look at that. Huh. Yeah, it's a little like, it's one of these deformed ones. That's what they call it. I hate to say that. But it's like they made these little series of cutesy ones. The
with
ones
that
almost
head.
look like, yeah, they're kind of like squashed, thick little bodies.
Yeah. It's almost like a what do you call this thing? Little pop guys.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah, but really nice. I mean, they made a nice version of it. But that's really, defo reel. That's what they called Godzilla. Jeez, there's some mad terms. They call it defo. Here they are, and there's a bunch of them. Where's Space Godzilla? Because he's got the great big shoulders. There he is. Look at this little guy. Oh, he's adorable. Here, I'll send you a little image of this guy.
Giant crystal shoulders.
Oh, he's great. I love him. Not a great movie, I have to admit, but.
Oh my God! Yeah, his shoulders are massive in this version,
and he looks so much more threatening in that one than he does in that other.
He looks like an angry little turtle.
Yeah, so they made a whole bunch of those, and I got a bunch of them because they're really good. They even have Biollante. Oh, I didn't get Biollante. That's a nice one too. But anyway.
Well, yes, I thought the movie was absolutely hilarious.
Oh, the movie's a blast.
And,
it's great. Yeah.
And
I bought the Blu-ray of it.
I'm sad that the director isn't going to do another one. I don't know. I mean, I don't. At this point, it's just the duo of Godzilla and King Kong. Like, I just want movies where they have to deal with shit together. That's it.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I do want another Godzilla by himself movie because they keep having to invent these ways for him not to just cut Kong's head off immediately.
You want a movie where Godzilla is the lead, is what you really want.
Yes. I want, it's like I said, there's a lot of monsters because Ghidorah is, or is it Ghidorah? I can never remember what you're supposed to say. Whatever, Ghidorah, I'm going to call him Ghidorah. I go back and forth. He's still in some kind of stasis, so he can come back. I would love to see him come back as the mecha version. Rodan, I think, is dead. Mothra's come back, but now she's an ally, so you can't use her as a villain anymore. But that leaves some of the big hitters.
And I didn't mind the Mothra design.
I don't dislike it. I just like the cutesier version because I always liked Mothra as kind of. I like her as kind of the plump caterpillar. I don't know. It's the only way I can put it.
Oh yeah.
She's that it. The insect
No,
version.
they made her far more angular to be able to.
Yeah, well, they made her look like an actual insect, and that's kind of
Yeah.
like with the Transformers, where they're all machine parts. It's like, yeah, I get that that's probably what they would actually look like, but it's more fun when they look like the cars, and it's silly. You know, Godzilla they haven't refined much, and Kong is just a big monkey, but Mothra is the one that is the most changed from her Japanese origins, and I just feel like that original version is very colorful and patterned and interesting. Because some of the Japanese designs are a little boring, and I get why they would want to modify them. But they didn't change Rodan. They didn't change Ghidra. They left them the same. And they look almost identical to their old versions. So why change Mothra and make her look like an insect? Except to make it look realistic. But I'm sorry, are we talking about realism when Kong's wearing a fucking power glove? I don't need realism in this movie.
Yeah,
I do like when you see what I said when he socks Godzilla, and Godzilla almost does a moment for a minute when he's not there. He's like, "Oh, what hit me?"
Yeah, but then he gets up and kicks the shit out of Kong. So
of course he does. That's the thing. As I said, is they at multiple points they're pointing out like, "Oh no, if he actually catches Kong, we're going to have a giant dead monkey to grill up for."
No, the only thing at this point that would stop Shimu, I think Shimu could actually put up a fight.
Yeah, probably because she's Ice Godzilla.
But she doesn't seem to be as vicious as Kong. Because that's the other thing. No. Kong is also so vicious. Like he goes through the pyramid to get to him. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not even like he's not stepping around things. He doesn't give a shit. He is singularly focused on kicking the shit out of everybody.
Yeah. Well, I do like the fact that they set it up where Kong rules the inside of Earth and Godzilla's on the surface. Like, I think that's a nice way to have them both exist. So I think that's actually a very smart solution to, well, they can't both be on the surface or there's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So now you can make your super monkey movies in the center, and then you can leave the surface to Godzilla, and he can fight anything, really.
Super monkey movies.
I mean, that's where the secret team up, if I was running things, right? I would bring Space Godzilla in and not tell anybody that when he starts dominating Godzilla, because Space Godzilla was stronger. And when Godzilla's in real trouble, that's when there's a portal opens up and Kong comes out with the power glove, and then they start wailing on. Basically, I would have Kong break the crystals off his shoulders and stab him with them.
I would totally have it so that it's not even that Godzilla goes to Kong for help, that Godzilla falls through one of the portals half dead.
Or Kong senses it. And something's going on.
And then Kong basically has to like hang out with Godzilla till Godzilla is functional. Then you can bring Tracker in, which will be fun.
Oh, that'll be all right.
Tracker has to get Godzilla back to speed, and actually, then the two of them.
The way I would do it is I would have it where, because Space Godzilla has crystals on the shoulders, right?
Yeah.
And inside of Hollow Earth, there's crystals everywhere. The crystals start having problems, and Kong knows something's wrong. And he comes up just as Space Godzilla's about to kill Godzilla, and he drags him through a portal. And then it's kind of like Superman 2, where Zod's running things for a while and he's just dominating the whole, he's just like stomping on people. Meanwhile, down inside, Kong, because he's linked with the psychic girl, he's like, hey, beep, 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 like Aquaman style. Can you send the doctor, doctor, please, signs, send doctor.
Dr. Monster, send Dr. Monster quickly.
Miri or whatever her name says to her mom, is like, send a doctor right away. And then you hear fucking Immigrant Song, and in comes Tracker with, I don't know, a skeleton, or he encases him in Mechagodzilla armor. So he's like Batman fighting the Predator, where he's got the super suit on just to fight him. And then the two of them, wail on Super Space Godzilla and break his crystals off. Like, there's a really easy way to do this. I'm available if anybody wants me to direct this. It's not that hard. I'm sorry, it isn't. If you just need a cartoon, I'm your man. It's easy. So it can be done.
Wait, did you see they're doing The Watchmen as an animated series, the whole thing again?
Well, they're doing it as an animated series, not a motion comic, which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
Because if they do it in the style of the comic, that could be really good. If they imitate the style.
I don't know if they're imitating it. It almost sounds like they're modifying it a little bit. But either way, I thought that was
less interested.
I was interested in the fact that they were going to do it.
Yeah,
but also why they felt the need to do it, because it does feel soon, doesn't it?
That's an interesting question. Oh, there's a trailer out. Hold on. Let's see. What's the trailer showing? Oh, jeez. Okay, I don't need to blow my ears out. I'm watching it now. Okay, yeah, they've modified. Well, okay, this isn't. No, they did imitate the style.
Did they?
Oh,
okay.
Yes, they did. Now, okay, they basically applied. They've imitated it, but they've also added some. They kind of did what Ghost in the Shell, the series did, where they've augmented certain things with 3D, but they've also. Have you not seen the trailer? Here, I'll show you. I'll send you the trailer.
No, I haven't.
It's good. This looks promising. No, I like this because this is. What's missing are his little detail lines, but it does feel like they've kept the simplicity of his kind of. The faces and everything. This does not feel like a transformation. It feels like they're using his art as a base. Wait a minute. Did they make, wait a minute. Okay. They may have changed one thing. Is Dr. Manhattan black now? He looks black.
What do you mean?
Did they? It looks like, what's his face?
He's blue.
No. Not when he, I'm
you mean
his
when he was alive?
The human form. Sorry. Yes.
Maybe.
I should have said that.
It doesn't really make a difference whether.
No, it doesn't make any difference to me. I know that there's going to be what, people are going to lose their stupid ass minds.
I know. You can't make him black. He was always
you've
white.
ruined it. How dare you? You've destroyed the soul of the comic.
You've ruined it.
Yeah. I mean, I can't tell.
You've ruined it.
It looks like just before he gets ignited that he has darker skin, but I could be wrong.
Oh no, Dr. Manhattan had a tan. You've ruined it.
Well, maybe it is just he gets a tan all right.
Yeah. Well, if you tan too much, you turn blue.
Yeah, you turn lots of things.
Yeah. All right. What
Did
do you got
watch
for me? No, I did. Yeah, it looks okay. I mean,
yeah,
it's a little weird.
Like I said, it's that they've changed
weird,
but
I
don't mind what they're updating there. It still looks like the basics of the.
I still think that Watchmen may be Zack Snyder's best movie to me. I love his. Watchmen.
That's a very, very, very fair argument.
I mean, I also love 300, but 300 is like a popcorn movie.
I mean, when the
like
argument
Watchmen is good. Yeah.
When the argument against the movie is it's too faithful to the source material.
No fucking way. It's great.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Listen, and the thing is, I talk a lot of shit about Zack Snyder, but Zack Snyder is a great movie maker. Watchmen is an amazing movie.
Yeah, I mean, the only other ones in contention are really kind of like 300 is the only other one.
300 is awesome, but not as good as Watchmen.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about it, and what else? Because you don't like Sucker Punch, right? You're not the biggest fan of that one?
Okay, Sucker Punch is... If you remove all the action sequences from Sucker Punch and watch them, that is a really well done action short film. But the rest of that movie is terrible.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched that? The action cut?
No, I couldn't make it through the original.
Oh, okay. You're right. So find...
I'll look for it. If there's an action cut,
there's people who've done this. They've taken all the action sequences out, right?
Yeah.
And they've just stitched them together.
Okay.
If you watch those... That is a really great action short film.
Well, that makes sense because that's his skill.
That's his. Oh, he's incredible action, right? But the plot and the rest of that movie, I don't like it at all.
Okay, no, I'll watch it.
But I love the idea that they've got a like a B-52 bomber fighting a fucking dragon. Like this shit makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
But it's fun.
Makes sense.
So, but no, Watchmen, his best movie.
Okay, so my review is as you may recall, you tipped me off to Criterion having a synth collection.
Oh, okay.
And if you remember, I said, well, I've seen most of these, which I have, but I haven't seen them all. And I've been on a bit of an animation kick lately. I've been like watching stuff, and I've just been kind of re-immersing myself in animation, which I've not like I ever stopped appreciating it, but I've just been watching a lot of it lately. Like I'm rewatching all Liquid Television. Somebody sold a bootleg that somebody had recorded all of them, even though they're in VHS quality. I don't care because I miss that show so much. So I've been watching those.
Hey, listen, Aeon Flux was better when it was on.
Well, at least you can get that in good quality because they did release all the Aeon Fluxes, including the series, which I like. I like the series.
Oh, I know, but I liked Aeon Flux more when it was there instead of when they did.
Oh no, it was better shorter because it was more distilled weirdness and
Yes, and the weirdness was high.
But Liquid Television as a series had lots of great stuff, like Winter Steel and The Specialists and all that type of thing. And you just can't get all of it. They have never released all of it. They've only released a best of set that has, I don't know, maybe 4 episodes total worth of what was a 3-season thing. So it's hard to find. But there are places you can buy people who had recordings of it. You can get it. So I'll just say that. So anyway, I went into the synth collection and I was wandering through. And I was looking for something. And I saw that there was what is described as the first Romanian animated feature that was ever made from 1984 called Delta Space Mission. I will not even attempt to pronounce its actual title because I cannot possibly pronounce it correctly.
Well,
but
are you rusty on your Romanian? Come on.
I am. Surprisingly enough, I am actually rusty on it. So I thought, okay, this sounds and looks weird, so I'm going to watch it. And it's only about 100.
What was it called again?
Delta Space Mission from 1984. It has many, many titles, but Delta Space Mission will come up with it. So 110 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think I've seen this.
Have you? I had never seen this. I've
Holy
seen
shit.
things that look like it, but I've never seen this.
Do you remember the show Spartacus?
Vaguely. Yeah.
Oh, that's another one of those really... This looks like Spartacus.
Okay, so that made, because I thought it looked familiar too, so I thought maybe I'd seen it, but then I read it and I'm like, no, I don't think I've actually seen this.
I mean, this looks weird as fuck. So yeah.
Oh, it is. Now it's all in native language, so there were no clips that I got of the actual dialogue, but I am going to play some of the soundtrack because it's dynamite and I bought it. It's on Bandcamp, so you could buy it. It's only maybe 6 tracks long. But let's play a little selection from it so you can hear how cool this soundtrack is, because it is...
If you type in Spartacus, the animated series,
yeah,
there's a similarity to that art style.
Hold on. Well, where was Spartacus animated?
I don't know.
Well, let's take a look. Is that the 2010 series?
No, this is older.
What's the year?
Hold on, let me check. Spartacus was... 1985 to 87 was a French animated series.
Oh, French. Okay, so that makes sense. So it's basically not American, so that makes sense.
Oh well, there are 52 episodes. I got to watch this show again.
Oh yeah. Yes. Okay. Yes, there is something.
Right?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
So it is not impossible that maybe some people who worked on both things, it could be. So let me play a track off this just so you can get a flavor of this. These are only a couple minutes. This one's maybe 2 minutes long, but it's still. I like the soundtrack since I don't have any other clips. I'm gonna play some of the music because it's good. This is a great title theme. As soon as I heard this, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm watching this even if it sucks.
This, honestly, I hate to say this, this almost just sounds like techno Romanian music.
Well, yeah, but from '84, it's unusual for its time.
No. It's fun. I'm just saying that's what it reminds me.
Now it sounds like it's time. Right. So the music's great. That's right off the top. As once I heard the music, I know I was into it. But so the story is pretty much it's a very simple story, but it's got interesting elements in its simplicity. So going back to the Star Trek thing we were talking about at the beginning, it's the year 3084, right? And we start off and it's Earth, and Earth has built this gigantic independent space station, like a space station that will both have its own AI running it and also people on it, called Delta Station. And they're preparing to launch it because at this point, the planet has become a utopia. You see people of all different backgrounds, all working together. There appears to be no inequality, no nothing. There's no war. Earth is a paradise.
It's so funny how when forced to envision what a future utopia looks like, people often can envision it quite easily.
Oh, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
Yet, so many people work against it. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. So basically everybody's unified and everybody's happy because the station is, and there is intergalactic communication because an alien reporter named Alma is visiting Earth to film the launch of this station. And she's welcomed and everybody's like, hey, how you doing? That's great. Hey, come on in. Right? So there's no intergalactic war. We're okay with aliens. We know about them. There's nothing special. We have no problems.
Is the journalist the blue one, the blue alien?
Yeah, with the wavy hair and the weird alien eyes. Yeah. So she's there to film it. And at one point they're like, well, let us show you our super intelligence computer that we're going to install that will run Delta Station. She's like, oh yeah, let's go look at it. And so they go over to see it.
It seems like a great idea.
Well, there's interesting parts of the way this movie handles this. So the thing is there, the computer. It's kind of it's basically
that was more commentary on the, hey, let's put the AI in charge of our whole base.
Well, no kidding. This is both a cautionary tale, but also an optimistic version of what that would look like because it's kind of simultaneously both. So it looks like the ball that drops at New Year's in New York City. That's kind of what it looks like. Okay. And they walk in the room with it, and the scientists are like, "Here it is. This is our super intelligence." And almost like, "Wow, that thing is beautiful. That's a wonderful looking super intelligence." And the computer. I mean, that's literally what she says. She says something about it, and the super intelligence hears her and thinks, wow, she's beautiful and she likes me. So is this what love is? Like it starts to internalize that what she's saying about its structure.
Oh, geez. It's having a crisis.
It forms a crush on her. That's the best word for it. And so they install it.
Having a space station with a crush is a bad idea.
Sort of. It's like I said, we'll get to it. So they install the machine and she's like, oh, can I come with you? Can I film this? And they say, sure, why not? Come on the station. So they get in the station. And as soon as they launch it and the supercomputer is brought online, it starts saying, but I don't think they can hear where it's saying, Alma, you and I will stay together. You know, you love me and I love you or something along those lines. And so it starts sealing the station off. But because they can't hear it, they don't realize it's trying to seal them away and seal Alma in. And so they think something has gone wrong. And they're like, we have to get out of the ship. And so the systems start flipping out and they think they're in danger and they just barely manage to get out. At which point the space station vanishes. It just disappears, Event Horizon style. And so nobody knows what happened. They don't know what exactly went wrong. They just understand something happened. And so when they're talking about it afterwards, like, all right, well, something went wrong. We'll figure out what it is. In the meantime, let's keep an eye out. If the station reappears, let's get it back in and let's find out what we did wrong. We know this can work.
That's a lot of money to have vanish.
There's no concern about money. There's never a discussion of, that's what I'm saying. It's very Star Trek style where there's never a point where they say, this is expensive. They just say, hey, it was a lot of work and we all are really proud of what we did. And now this can go out and it can communicate our desire to talk to other, intelligences everywhere. So it's a very peaceful, they're launching the Enterprise. That's what they're doing is go forth and do first contact. That's what we want. So again, very optimistic. So in the meantime, Alma's kind of bouncing around on Earth, and the real protagonist of the film, you realize after a while, is not any of the humanoid characters, but is in fact Alma's frog dog pet named Tin, Tin. Tin is a two-legged, tailed space frog dog who can eat metal. Apparently, they're mischievous little creatures that make wonderful pets, except if you have a lot of metal because they tend to want to eat it. So they keep feeding it metal, like they're throwing it nuts and bolts and stuff like that. It's benevolent. It's not an evil creature, but they get up to trouble. And so at some point, she's out there taking pictures of Tin when the Delta Station detects that she's going to be taking off from the planet soon. Or it wants her to take off. So it decides that it's going to launch all these creatures to make her want to leave the planet. So it launches first. It sends rock creatures. So it sends this little robot down that animates rocks and makes rock monsters. And the Earth government sees that she's in danger and they send ships to blow it up and they defend her. And then it animates water and a giant water creature comes out and they blow that up. And at that point, they're like, Alma, we think these things are coming after you, but they don't put together what it is. They don't realize it's a space station because these things seem to be appearing from nowhere. And so they're like, you better get out of here, because then it takes like a power, like a very humanoid looking power pole that starts stomping around and shooting off lightning and everything. And it's chasing her, and they manage to defeat that. And she's like, all right, I'm getting out of here because for whatever reason, I think these things are trying to get me. And again, they don't realize it's the station. So she takes off, at which point the station comes after her. And it's like, here I am. And it starts coming after her. It's like, hey, I just want us to be together. Come here, come here, come here. And she's like, and she runs. Because again, nobody can hear what the space station's seeing. They don't know what this is. They just think the space station is flipping out. And so she's trying to escape.
Now, do you know what it's saying?
Yeah, because you keep hearing it. You keep hearing it talking. Like you'll see it, and then you'll hear its voice, and it's subtitled, so you see what it's saying.
So it's talking to itself.
Yeah, it's saying like, Alma, all mine, Alma, all mine. Like it's saying that kind of thing over and over and over. But so she's trying to get away. Her spaceship gets damaged, so she has to set down on this planet that happens to be very dangerous, the environment. So she and Tin get out, and she sends a distress call to Earth, and they're like, we'll send somebody as soon as we can. We're sending ships to help you. And they're like, just be careful because that planet's really dangerous, so you got to keep an eye out. So she's got a gun, and she and Tin are kind of going around the planet. And for a while, they're just dodging things that are on the planet, which you realize after a while, this is just because the animators wanted to make all kinds of weird stuff. So there's a lot of there's actually periods of this film that are almost Sesame Street, where there's a point where Tin falls into a swamp that seems like it's a La Brea tar pit type of thing. And he's about to die, at which point alien seals, I don't know what else you could call them, because they bounce him off their noses. They're like nuzzling him and they're bouncing him around. And the music that's playing is like, it's silly music. So it's almost like a comedy. Nobody dies. There's no deaths throughout the whole movie. There's nothing adult. Any child could watch this and might actually be very entertained because the variety of art that's going on in this thing, there's so much color and so many weird creatures and different things happening that even if a child didn't know what was going on and couldn't follow it, even with subtitles, I think kids would watch it because the music is very energetic and kind of bouncy. There's these comedy bits with Tin, like I said, where he's being bounced off these creatures. Tin comes off as this very comedic character, and yet he saves the day every time. His ability to eat anything is really what ends up saving everyone. So there's a whole stretch in the middle where two of the human beings land and their ship gets melted by the space station because it sent robots down, and the robots are chasing them and they're shooting at them and there's laser blasts, and they realize that they have to get on board the station. That the station is they can't figure out why it's doing what it's doing. So they're like, well, the only thing we can do is try to get on the station and get control of it, and we can bring it back to Earth because we're stuck here otherwise. So they managed to salvage Alma's ship because it crashed in muck, but it was actually fine, and they managed to drag it out. And they get into it, and they fly into the space station, at which point there's a Alma puts together that the space station somehow wants her. And so she decides, okay, I'm just going to let it capture me because it's not trying to hurt me. So I don't know what it's trying to do, but the only way to make this stuff end, because it's trying to attack other people, even though, again, nobody dies, is, all right, I'm just going to let it capture me, and I'm just going to talk to it, because I don't know what's going on, but until I'm there, it's going to keep sending ships, it's going to keep causing these natural disasters, it's going to do all this stuff. So she lets herself get caught, and she's sitting there, and then the human beings are like, all right, we'll send Tin into the heart of the station and let him chew through the power wires. So we'll distract it until then. So they let themselves get captured, and Tin's like rooting down into the center of the space station. And so Alma's there, and the humans are there, and Alma says, okay, what is this about? And the space station says, well, when we first met, you said I was beautiful, and you thought I was a brilliant thing, and that, she says, I don't remember what her exact quote is, but she says something like, I could look at this all day. And so he says that back to her. He's like, you said you could look at me all day. Isn't that what love is? Isn't that what you were saying? And she says, oh, I understand. You took what I said and you thought that meant that there could be something between us, but there can't because you're a machine and I am a living being. So yes, I admired you. You are brilliant. You are wonderful. And he says, okay, yeah. So I'm then better than any human being you could or any living being that you could be interested in, because you said I'm beautiful and brilliant, so I must be perfect. Therefore, I would be better. And she says, no, it doesn't work like that. It's not about perfection. It was admiration, but it wasn't love. You're not capable of that because they didn't build you to be able to do that. You're imitating it, but you can't actually know what that is. And so the machine just can't figure out why it can't realize what love is. And that's the point where Tin chews through the power and basically shuts him off. And so Alma says, I'm really sorry. I'm sad that you can't know what it is that you think you know, but you can't. Maybe at some point they'll build a machine that can, but you were not constructed that way, at which point he powers off. And then the movie basically ends as far as they'll figure out what they did wrong and make sure that they repower it on without this defect where it thinks it can act like a human. And then it ends and everybody's like, okay, everybody got saved and we'll fix the problem. Yay. Da, da, da. But there's like this sadness underneath it that the machine wanted to be more and can't be. But it's not really heavy that way unless you're really paying attention. Like I said, a child would not even pick up on that. It would just weird space creatures and alien people bouncing around. And, it's only...
It is really sad, though, because...
Right, it is.
There's almost this... They're saying, oh, no, you can't really understand what it is to feel that. And the AI is sitting there going, but how do you know what I'm feeling?
Right. Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm saying is an adult watching it will pick up on that.
That's
right?
like... That is like someone. It's like you telling someone you love them and them saying, "No, you don't understand what love is."
You just think you know what love is. You don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what it is. So
they never kill him. She just shuts himself off.
Yeah, they just kill the power, but they're basically saying, okay, we'll repair it. We must have made a mistake.
So he doesn't shut himself down. The
no,
AI doesn't shut itself down.
Tin chews through the power lines.
Got it.
So he basically goes into a power off state. He's not dead because they specifically say, they're like, all right, we'll figure out what we did wrong. We'll make sure that we'll repower it on once we've identified the defect so this can't happen again. Which to me means that they'll figure out why it thought that it could be in love and they'll basically reprogram it. So it will operate as an onboard computer like it was intended to be. That's the only way I can infer the ending to be, because they basically say they don't shoot it or anything. It's still there. They just basically unplug it. And then they're like, all right, we'll bring the station back and we'll fix it. And then the end of the movie is like, da-da-da-da-da-da, everybody's alive and nobody died and la-la-la. And that's it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's kind of a double-edged sword. On one level, you kind of want your AIs to be emotional enough that they can empathize and understand the creatures that have constructed them. But on the other hand, do you really want your AI gods to be angry and mean-spirited and have favorites?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's effectively that's pretty much the secondary or tertiary story of the movie. Because again, if, at a certain age, you're not going to understand that, because this does come across as very Hanna-Barbera most of the time. And a child would rationalize it with no problem, just going, oh yeah, it was a robot and it misunderstood something and they're going to fix it. And, they wouldn't think about what that actually means. But as an adult watching it, you go, oh yeah, because she does say, I'm really sorry, that you had this misunderstanding. But there's also this very hard edge where she's saying, no, you are incapable of this. And there's no reason to think she's lying. Maybe it was a defect, you don't know, but to the machine, it basically, they imitate the thing from 2001 where he's singing Daisy as he's pulling the memory chips out and he just kind of goes, oh
my God.
They did the same thing.
That would have made that movie so much better if it was like, Dave, I love you, Dave.
Oh my God, you got such nice eyes. Yeah. So
man, that would have made that a much weirder movie if Hal had been in love with Dave.
Oh, it would have been. Well, there's no reason to think maybe he wasn't. We really don't know what Hal's actual drive was, but and they do kind of get into that in 2010 where they're talking to the creator of Hal and about all that stuff. So they sort of delve into it later. But in terms of this movie, it's really interesting because the art style, again, there's all this really beautiful, weird. I mean, they really just went crazy imagination-wise. There's so much of this that feels like, okay, this doesn't really need to happen, but it lets them do these weird backgrounds and animate these aliens and do all this stuff. the actual humanoids appear to be rotoscoped a lot of the time because their animation is so much smoother than everything else. I think it's rotoscoped animation. It works great. It's got this simple style to it that at times looks like Mobius.
Who did the animation for that Lord of the Rings movie that was rotoscoped?
Oh, Ralph Bakshi? Yeah.
Was that who? So that wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was. I'm always kind of curious, like what studios used rotosculpt at that point. What year
well,
was
that
movie?
Bakshi's whole thing was that. That was his whole. That one. That was 80. Let's see. Where is Hobbit? The Hobbit.
It's not Hobbit. It's Lord of the Rings.
Well, yeah. Well, but it. Yeah. Sorry. Lord of the Rings. The first one.
Because they did a Hobbit movie.
78.
And that one was like.
That's it.
There you go. Yeah. They did a Lord of the Rings movie, but that was like properly animated.
Yeah. No. Sorry. Yes. The Lord of the Rings. Ralph Bakshi was 78, and that's the one where they. There's some terrible rotoscoping in that. They're good and bad. It's good and bad.
I know, but there are some badass moments in that movie.
There are. I mean, there's a whole, I watched a whole 2-hour video about all the stuff that went on with that. I mean, it was never proper. He was never allowed to do what he wanted to do. And so, as is mostly the case, when they pull all the money and they say, you can't do this, well, you're going to end up with a very compromised film. And plus Bakshi's a fucking lunatic. So the idea that he was ever going to do what I'm sure they wanted it to, it was never going to happen. Bakshi makes weird.
Did he do other animated movies?
Cool World, Fire and Ice.
No. Did he
yes,
same
guy.
Fire and Ice.
Yeah.
Cool World.
Yeah. Fritz the
Cool
Cat.
World is an interesting
Wizards.
One,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. This is the guy that you thought was going to do a straightforward Lord of the Rings. I mean, if you just watch Fritz
Cool
the Cat
World
Wizards
was his last movie, wasn't it?
Oh no! He did many movies after that. No, his last movie was called. It's from '89, called This Ain't
I'm
Bebop.
Looking now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Ralph Bakshi. There you go.
And his last one was actually, I think, his only pure live action one. I'm pretty sure before he died. The rest of them were either mixed
Wizards.
or
Wizards is a weird
Wizards.
one.
That's what I'm saying is. This is the guy. Plus, I mean, he was into weird shit.
And he didn't make a secret
Days
of Coney Island.
Yeah. This is not somebody who's going to make a straight-laced Lord of the Rings. What are you, crazy? So that was, but don't get me wrong. Bakshi also comes off as a maniac when you hear him talk. He comes off like he has at times all the arrogance of a James Cameron where he's like, I know what animation is, goddammit, and anybody who says otherwise is stupid. And then there's other times where he talks about the art of it and you realize that, yeah, this guy has a really interesting way of looking at animation and how it can work. And so it was probably a combination of, well, this was never going to be what you thought it was because this guy doesn't work. I mean, this is like asking David Lynch's Return of the Jedi. That's one of those things where you sit there and go, wow, what would that have been?
I know.
You know, it's like the difference between his Dune and the new Dune. Well, the new Dune is what they want.
That's like, no, I'll give you a better one. That's almost like having him do a remake of Big Trouble in Little China.
Sure. Yeah.
And sit there and look at the the original version and then look at his version and be like, I know it's kind of the same movie, but holy shit, it's very different.
Actually, let's go back to your Aeon Flux thing. Let's have the guy who did Aeon Flux do Cinderella.
Ooh.
Right?
That would be a fun movie.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine what Disney would? What are you doing? I mean, all these really distended, barely clothed women kind of bouncing around. Oh God!
Hold on 1 second. Someone must have done Aeon Flux.
Jesus, Peter Chung is the guy's name.
Cinderella. Let's see if somebody has done that.
No, nobody's done that. Well, no, I shouldn't say nobody's done that.
Come on, internet.
Well, yeah. No,
well,
no way.
Joseph, my friend, you have had an original thought.
Hey,
no one has made Aeon Flux into Cinderella.
Well, there you go.
Yep. Look at that.
Let's give Peter Chung Cinderella and expect him to make a Disney film. I don't think so.
Honestly, I'd want him to do Beauty and the Beast, personally.
Sure, fine, but what I'm saying is, if Disney did that and said, "Wait a minute, what are you making here?" and you'd say, "Well, did you not watch what I've made before? Have you not looked at my work?"
Yeah, but that's happened before when like they've given it to directors.
Well,
and been like,
that's what happened here. That's what I'm saying. Is this was? I don't doubt that Bakshi was partially responsible for that movie being what it was. But I also think it was unfair to expect him to have made a straightforward adaptation. That's where I'm going with it. This was a disaster that was next to inevitable. And so that's why you got a movie that doesn't even have an ending, really, and is at times, as you said, brilliant and beautiful and interesting. And then 5 minutes later, it looks like somebody shot it in their garage in next to total blackness. Like you can't even see what's happening.
It gets dark. Yeah, it gets dark.
Right. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And so, let it be said.
And so I would say Delta Space Mission, if you're an animation fan, and particularly if you want to see, something that's not American and not Japanese, because there's plenty of that stuff. You can find great examples of that. But I really like this. I feel like it's
fun. It sounds like a fun idea.
And it's got a killer soundtrack. I bought it. I really like it. It's got this kind of really...
Did you buy the Godzilla Kong soundtrack, by the way?
No, I didn't.
I just want those tracks so I can drive around like tracker cool.
Buy it.
I'm gonna go find those songs. Just the ones. Just the one.
Yeah.
The rest of the soundtrack is boring, but like when he pops up, it's great.
Oh, I'm sure somebody has a playlist of that you can just get. Yeah. I guarantee it. I mean, you know what they did. So yeah, Delta Space Mission is a lot of fun. And you can rent it. It was part of Criterion, so I watched it as part of that. But it's also on Amazon for $3.
Was this part of the synth collection?
Yeah, it is. That's why I saw it. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was saying. Is you said to look at that, and that's what I saw, and I went, oh, okay. I didn't realize there was an animated one when I first saw it. Actually, I think I thought it was Forbidden Planet at first, which I've seen. But then I realized, oh no, it sort of has a similar thumbnail, but no, this is something else. And when I saw that it was Romanian, I thought, okay, well, I really am interested in foreign stuff because generally they have a different way of looking at things. And that was the case with this. This was a very specific type of utopia. And it was interesting that it's, yeah.
It, for some reason, makes me think of, what was that the Luc Besson movie he did that was based off a comic on this big space station? Oh, what was it called? Not Syntheria. What was it called?
That was a big space station.
Yeah, Luc Besson did it. It was the it was the big space station movie. It was Valerian.
I was going to say the Valerian movie. Okay, yeah,
Valerian, right. And that is a non-American vision
of
this future with this super space station. Everybody lives there, and it's like
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can see that. I mean, there were a couple things I thought of when I saw this.
Here's an interesting question for you. Is Star Trek un-American?
Well, it's communist, so yeah.
Ooh, there's something to end the show on.
Well, I mean, it is. Well, not to mention the Federation of Planets. It's not American centric. And let's see, Jean-Luc Picard is not American. Let's see, DS9 delves into racism. I mean, certainly racism is American, but tackling it like that, not so much. Let's see.
Well, you know what? You're right. Star Trek is responsible for the first interracial kiss on TV.
There you go. See?
Wow. Star Trek is un-American.
Yep, it is.
Is that because it aspires to idealism?
Well, because ultimately its vision is one of non-capitalism, integration, and peace. Therefore, un-American.
And on that note,
everybody, hey, so yeah, Delta Space Mission, $3. I would say rent it if you watch the trailer, have any interest, absolutely worth your time. And the soundtrack's on Bandcamp,
or watch Godzilla Kong, because now Joe and I have both watched that now, and it was hilarious. So.
I said that last show, so I'll just reinforce. Yeah, no kidding. Go watch Godzilla.
I'm saying, but if the movie can pass muster with both of us,
it's a blast. It's just a pure blast. Now, and Delta Space Mission is similar, except it's animated. That's all.
Oh, there you go.
It's just fun. So whatever you choose to watch, have a great weekend. Oh, by the way, this is show 900. So we are now in season...
Is it really?
Yeah, this is show 900. So now we're in season 9, which I have realized, because I do every 100 episodes to me is a season. That's how I look at it. I did not realize, by the way, that for some reason, I talked about Libsyn being great at the beginning. It somehow put a default of season 9 on a bunch of the most recent shows. So I'm going to have to go through all the last 100 shows And make sure they all say season 8, because until you hit the number, it doesn't, the season, I just have this whole numbering thing. So they're all right in my thing, but they're not right on Libsyn. So if that seems confusing, sorry about that. But yeah.
Season 9, 900 shows.
So only 100 more till we hit 1,000.
Jesus Christ.
That will be 2 years from now, 52 weeks in a year. So yeah, a year and a half from now, whatever it is, something like that. Yeah. Wait, no, sorry. Yeah, 52 weeks. So it would be a little over 2 years from now. So 2026, June, July, somewhere in there. So summer of 2026 should be episode 1000. And I'm sure we'll do something just as special for that one as we've done for this one. So look forward to that in a couple of years. Who the hell knows what else will go on in the meantime? On that note, thanks for being here for 900 if you have been, or, well, actually, that can work 2 ways. Thanks for being here for 900 episodes, meaning you tuned in for just episode 900, or you've been listening for 900. I cannot imagine there's anybody who's actually listened to all 900, but anyway, happy 900, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you again next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.